welcome back to another Spooky.Duvet review. This time I can say welcome back because it's my second video. Someone's playing soccer outside the house. Oh man, don't mind me, boys. Today's topic is The Girl on the Third Floor, which, while not a Netflix original series, is streaming on Netflix at the moment. And I do highly suggest that you go ahead and give this a watch during your quarantine time. Not gonna lie, at first the movie very much gave me the pretty thing that lives in the basement vibes, because that whole entire movie, the pretty thing that, did I say basement? Meant the pretty thing that lives in the house. Anyway, this movie, for the beginning, gave me those vibes, because if you've never seen the pretty thing that lives in the house, that whole movie is extremely slow paced. That one was based off of a book, and it is really just, it would probably be better as a book, to be honest. So I was a little afraid that Girl on the Third Floor would be the same, where it never grabbed you. But let's go on. I'll tell you about it. At first, I was pretty annoyed by the premise. It starts out following Dawn, who is a grade A fuck-up, who is renovating a Victorian-style house for his wife and their expected baby. He is joined only by their German Shepherd, whose name is Cooper. Dawn takes on this huge job with nothing but a small box of tools and a lot of alcohol, which he's not supposed to be having. Not only is the house old, it has literal goop coming out of it, like out of its orifices, like someone called Gwyneth Paltrow. Don thinks he can handle this himself, which speaks to his big man complex. He's doing this as a flex to make up for his past mistakes, but he might have bitten off just a bit more than he can chew. Not only has he bitten off like a lot more than he can handle, he's not really passionate about the job, and he doesn't seem to really want to change his ways. So there's goop coming out of the wall, there's these weird marbles that just keep popping out of nowhere, like actual like play marbles. But of course, like, Dawn doesn't think anything of it. Why would you? Now, if we look at Dawn as a character, he is extremely toxic and problematic. He was once referred to as King Dawn because he had so much power in the work that he was doing before he scammed a bunch of people out of their retirement funds and ran with it. This selfish act basically ruined his reputation, left him financially just destroyed and totally dependent, financially at least, on his wife, Liz. Liz is the complete opposite of Dawn. Like, I know opposites attract, but like, damn girl. She is an honest worker who we gather from certain scenes is very punctual and responsible. She also completely carries the weight of the relationship, literally and figuratively, because she's preggy. She is the one to always make sure that Dawn is okay and is always the one to demonstrate her love for him. She always says that she loves him on their FaceTime calls and blows him kisses, to which overly masculine Dawn could not be bothered with, so he just like awkwardly watches her give him affection, and it just kind of exudes this cockiness that is just so unattractive about him. Like, he literally just watches her give him the world, give him all this affection, and he literally like hangs up, doesn't say anything. No, I love you too. The fixing of the house and claiming to want a simpler life, it's all just for show and has no effect on like any remorse that Dawn has or for him wanting to be a better person. He doesn't actively want to change. Dawn is entitled, Dawn is privileged in that he has never had any consequences handed to him for the awful actions that he has done. By his status that he had before he messed up his job, he obviously now has this like God complex almost, and Liz has forgiven him multiple times for choices that he has consciously made. That is not to say that Liz is to blame for any of his awful behavior, but it doesn't help when someone is never actually reprimanded for the wrongs that they do. Dawn ends up meeting Sarah, a young woman who seems to live in the neighborhood who tells Dawn that she just likes to hang around the house because, you know, it's a cool house. Victorian houses are cool. Like, not gonna lie, I would really love to invest in one. A lot of times they're like really cheap, and that's probably because someone died, but like, that'd be so dope to redecorate. Anyway, Dawn tells her that he bought the house and that it's no longer gonna be empty, because I guess that was his best pickup line. Even after mentioning that he's fixing up the house for his pregnant wife, yeah, Dawn still sleeps with Sarah. Scumbag. After the whole escapade, Sarah leaves, and Dawn assures the only witness, Cooper, that he earned that. Again, scumbag. The "I earned that" line just speaks so much to Dawn's sense of entitlement, just like, bleh. Now, as these situations typically go, Sarah does come back to the house. And for whatever reason, Dawn has a conscience now. And he tells her that, yeah, it was fun, but like, we probably shouldn't do it again. Sarah seems a little hurt, but accepts the answer. Except she doesn't. This brings us back to why I had a problem with the plot at the beginning, or what I at least thought the plot was. I did not want to see another movie where a man consciously makes a mistake by sleeping with the girl next door, only to make him look like the victim when she continues to try and pursue him. We have seen that movie 1,000 times, and honestly, I was not here for it. But I did write the script off as cliche, typical, and overly masculine, which, boy howdy, was I wrong. This movie took the typical trope of making the cheating husband a victim and completely turned it on its head. This movie takes the character of Sarah and uses her as a symbol for vengeance. Now, the house in this movie is based off of an actual house and is filmed in the real thing. In actual legend, this place is said to have been a brothel about 100 or so years ago. Now, it is said that 2 girls actually died in that house in the same room on the 3rd floor, but at different times. God, this guy's sweating. I don't even know where he came from. Now, when Dawn is first fixing the house, it looks like there's only 2 floors. But in the fashion of old houses, it has its mysteries. And what happens is, in the master bedroom, when Dawn is repairing it, the ceiling completely collapses, revealing a loft that looks like it's meant for an audience. Now remember, according to legend, the house was a bordello. And in this bordello, Sarah was a worker. The physical form that we're seeing of Sarah is her spirit, her very angry spirit. She was murdered in that house, and her spirit became disgusted and angry by how no one questioned her disappearance, like after she was killed, even though so many men loved her as a performer. She was thrown away by men and therefore tests men who move into the house, and if they fall weak, she makes sure that they know that their actions have consequences. And although Dawn is not used to this, like, school of life, he is no exception. As I mentioned, Sarah was one of the 2 girls who was killed in that room. The other girl was killed and then left on some train tracks, causing her to be completely kind of like disfigured. So in the movie, you see her having like a facial disfigurement from getting run over. Her presence is as well still in the house, and she's known as the nymph from what I could find on like IMDb and everything. Her giggles and squeals throughout the movie are like so unsettling and creepy, just like typical childish kind of like squealing. Very creepy. Now we see through a flashback sequence that it looks like the nymph was being groomed from a very young age by the men who came into the bordello. So that makes sense as to why, although she's like a grown person now, she died when she was grown. She dresses very childishly and she giggles and squeals a lot. Although there are unnecessary deaths in the movie and warning something does happen to the dog, I was not prepared for that, so yeah, be warned. The movie becomes more and more brilliant as we see the demise of Dawn. As he is violently attacked by the marbles from the nymph, the house goes chillingly quiet. Now, to surprise him, Liz comes over with some Chinese food that very same day. She is immediately disappointed, but not surprised by the alcohol bottles, the beer bottles, everything that she sees around. When Liz enters the picture, everything takes a complete turn. The focus is off Dawn. Like, as far as we know, Dawn's kaput. Dawn's bite. Like, who's Dawn? I don't know. Because this movie, this is where it starts to feel like another movie. This is where we focus onto Sarah in the nymph's background. Now, Liz has an interaction with Sarah that makes her really uncomfortable, so she does step out and ends up having a small chat with the neighbor across the street who's also a pastor, who happens to know a lot about what goes on in this house. When Liz returns from her chat, the house is all of a sudden as it was from 100 years ago, with ladies of the night and old-timey men walking about. Liz witnesses one of Sarah's performances from the loft above the master bedroom. As Sarah is whipped during this, Liz cries out for it to stop. And to me, this was like symbolic of some sort of a sisterhood because it looked like Sarah was in pain. Then once that sequence is over with the flashback from 100 years ago, there's this part where Dawn pops out of the closet of the master bedroom. And he's all cut up and bloody, and it's just, it's gruesome. And he pleads with Liz to forgive him. He's like, all you have to do is forgive me. And it's this moment where he's just begging her, and it's so stressful, but then it actually turns out to be a test and a small tribute, I thought, to 70s slasher house films. Sarah tested Liz to make sure she wouldn't forgive Dawn again. This completed Sarah's goal of making sure that Dawn understood that there are consequences to his actions. After the living sequence plays out, after that moment with Dawn coming out of the closet all bloody and cut up, Liz understands what she needs to do. In the room on the 3rd floor, Liz knocks in the wall and finds Sarah's body. She and the neighbor who knows so much about the house have a proper funeral for her. This puts Sarah and the house finally to rest. Or so we think. Because 6 months later, it seems like another presence has taken over. Overall, the film is good. What was impressive to me is how it leaves you feeling as though you've watched 2 separate movies. Because of how Dawn is taken out of the picture, while also concluding his story and bringing in another character who, while is connected to Dawn, has their own struggles and their own character arc. This movie does not play on the tropes that I thought it would. And to do that, I must applaud it. It could so easily go down the same rabbit hole of the wronged girl who wants to keep banging a married man. And although Sarah's perception of consequences is brutal, she gets her point across, and with her background, it does give her like a sense of justification. Do I consider this a feminist film? Yes. It is a feminist film in the fact that it does not use the I'm a piece of trash husband trope as a twisted lure for sympathy, and that the prevalent characters are female. It also does not focus too much on Sarah's sex appeal. Like, she's pretty normally dressed. Like, even when she and Dawn end up having sex, like, she's very normally dressed. Like, there's nothing very scandalous about her appearance. It doesn't focus so much on her sex appeal as the 4 o'clock news. And it doesn't focus as much on Sarah's sex appeal as it does her thought process and her plan for Dawn and any man who enters the house and does wrong. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this review. I really like this movie. Give it a chance. Give it a shot. It's an hour and 30 minutes long. It's not forever. It starts off slow. It picks up. I really hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys later. From me and my mic.